Hello, my name is Gina Rodriguez, and this is my capstone. I chose my capstone topic based on an area of my planning that I neglected. I got too comfortable in my knowledge on the curriculum, and that I had been teaching for several years now, and I felt like, oh, I know the curriculum. I don't really have to do as much planning of my lessons because I know what I have to teach. I know what are the common misconceptions the students might have. And I stopped planning in details. I stopped writing my lesson plans the way they should. And I started to notice this as the years go by, but really I didn't pay a lot of attention until I started working on my seminars, until I started seeing the mistakes that were pointed out there. I was making them in my classroom. And then my appraiser mentioned that my questioning, I kept trying to telling her I want to improve my questioning level. I want to reach a higher level thinking for the kids. And then she pointed out that my questions, maybe I needed to prepare them. And that went hand in hand with everything that I found out from the seminars, that I was lacking on my lesson planning. I wasn't preparing them myself, which in at the end it had an impact on my students, on their achievement. So that's why I chose the lesson planning and its effect in the classroom. Um, the purpose of the capstone was for me to understand, which I already understood, but not just to say, oh, okay, well, I need to get better on this, but I also needed to understand why is it that this has a negative aspect in my classroom? Why is it affecting my student achievement? Why is this, even though I had a good classroom management, why a more detailed lesson planning was going to be a positive impact on it? And how this could affect the differentiated instruction for multiple intelligences in my classroom. I knew all this, but still I wasn't doing it. Why did I stop doing it? So I needed to go back to my roots and, I guess, develop my love for teaching again and not think, oh, this is just busy work, but understand why, what's the reasoning for the lesson planning to be done in detail. Why is it that this has to be done no matter how comfortable you feel on your curriculum, no matter how long you be teaching? This is critical for not just my development as a teacher and my achievement as a teacher, but most important, my students' achievement in the classroom, which is the most important in this case. So, like I said, those are the reasons. I wasn't happy with my data. I wasn't the lowest out of all my co-workers, but I knew my kids could do better. I knew I could get my kids to a higher level, and I wasn't delivering. And the reason why I wasn't delivering is because I wasn't getting the resources that would take them to that level. And my questioning was not building in the rigor. The scaffolding wasn't happening. So I definitely needed to make some changes in order to improve myself and to improve the student achievement. I needed to go back and look at my lesson plan, see what I was slacking. So that's why I did it. And um, it did work. So I started, my first research was based on, okay, lesson plan and its effects. But I had to narrow it down and narrow it down as the research kept going. I went to lesson planning and classroom management, multiple intelligences, and finally student achievement. It did caught me by, not surprised, but I was, well, yeah, the right word, surprise. The fact that there is a universal lesson planning method that I've never heard of. And even though it's pretty simple and it's pretty much the same, like the 5E model that we have heard and we have done, repeatedly, but it's also something that I've never heard, that I've read so many papers and I've sat in so many in trainings and read books and everything, and I never heard of the universal lesson planning method. So, like it's supposed to be universal because it works in every method, in every grade. So that caught my attention. And it wasn't only mentioned in one article, but it was mentioned in two articles of the ones that I read. So I'm planning researching more about it, but I didn't want to get off track by doing more research in this method instead of focusing on what I'm looking for. Um, I also noticed that there's the special education department has also a lesson plan that it's supposed to help you be able to teach according and follow modifications for the special education students, that sometimes we think that we modify our instruction and we're not modifying correctly. We're not really reaching them to the level that we can do, but we're just making general modifications when they should be more. We should be able to do more for this case. We should be able to modify in a more detail for each one of their disabilities. So I decided to force myself and do the lesson plans for the first half of the school year. I went back to unpacking standards. I went back to look at the vertical alignment. It was very disappointed on myself because I worked on writing vertical alignment for my school district, and I've done lesson plans and I've done assessments and I've wrote curriculum for the district. And here I am doing all this, but I'm not applying it in my classroom. So it was disappointing, but at the same time, it was easy for me to go back to my roots, to start doing this again. One of the areas which has always been my weakness is my questioning. So I started working on index cards and trying to write questions, not just the typical question, but something that would hopefully trigger the kids' higher order of thinking. Um, I also went back, and if I see that, well, this worked for this class, but this didn't work for this class, I went back and make changes to or little notes on the side. Not like I rewrote the whole lesson, but I just kept in mind or make sure that for the ESL students that you point this out or that you make this connection between the Spanish word and the English word, how they are pronounced, very similar. So, and the definition can be very similar usually. And I also, even though it seemed like more work, it was more work at the beginning, but as the planning went by and I got back on track of doing this, everything just fall into place. The lesson was planned to the teeth. Everything was in order. So there was no surprises like, oh, what am I doing today? And what's after this and what's after that? Everything was just planned. Everything fall into order. The students knew what to do. There was no time for them to find creative ways of keep themselves busy. So doing a more detailed lesson plan, it was more like a domino. Everything just trickled down. Once you did the lesson planning and then you unpack the standards, looking for activities, looking for different activities that I could use in stations that could work for the students, different types of learnings. Everything just went down and down and down until everything just, it was like a chain of events. Everything went down from up and down. And that's it. Thank you and have a good day.